Welcome back, everybody. Today we are working on my old lady's 98 Honda Accord. We call Old Faithful, sitting back behind me. Rear brakes are gone on it, so we're going to do a little simple brake job for my friends that own LS400, or not LS400, sorry, owns Honda Accords like this. Part of a few forms for these cars, but we're going to do the rear brakes on it because there's a little trick on these rear calipers that not everybody knows about, and it requires a special tool to do. And I'm going to show the tool I bought because it's cheaper than going to any of the stores if you buy it off Amazon. But today, no, they're not a sponsor of my video, but I really like their product, and they always have sales going on with their drilled and slotted rotors and pads. And I'll tell you all the story, the reason why we went this route, because we noticed our brakes were going out, squealing, and I called around to see how much new brakes were for this car. Real OE rotors and cheap semi-metallic pads. It was going to cost me $160. BrakePerformance.com was having a 40% off on their drilled and slotted rotors, and I got these for $132 shipped to my door free. So yeah, a lot cheaper, and I like their product. I got their rotors and pads on my car, on my Lexus, you know, and they work great. And we even went with a full ceramic pad for $132. So, and they are zinc coated too. So, hey, I can't complain. They do great on my car, so we're gonna put them on her car in the rear and fix the rear brakes. And maybe next year we'll do the front, but we'll see. So I'll show y'all everything that comes out. Now, when you get your box in the mail, it's gonna look like this. It's gonna have their brake performance sticker on it and all the good stuff. And inside here is the rotors. There's one rotor right there's the tool. We're going to look at that in a minute. Second rotor, and these are rear brakes now, so they're not going to be super thick like the other ones vented. These ain't vented. They are, but they ain't. So, and then they give you the instructions right here. Pull that out. You know, the lug pattern you need to do when you tighten your lugs, and then down here the direction you got to mount your rotors. So, and the rotors will be marked left to right. No, I don't need it. Yeah. And right there, 131 shipped to my door. Not too bad. So, we'll get everything unwrapped and I'll show you, buddy. There is the rotors. They are completely drilled and slotted. See if I can, there you go. Completely drilled through, slotted for ventilation. Get rid of those nasty gases that build up between the pads and the rotors, and that will help ventilate all that stuff. Here's your full ceramic performance pads they offer, and hardware. They gave me the hardware for free because they were doing a sale. So on any drilled and slotted rotors I bought, they gave the hardware for free. Or not hardware, but you know, the guides and the springs and everything like that. You know, the slides, not guides, but the slides and everything for the pads. So we got new hardware, new pads, new rotors, and they are going on the back of the Honda. And here is my toolkit. This here I bought off of Amazon. Now, I showed my son, even that Harbor Freight, they sold one that was I think a 11 piece or a 12 piece, and it was $40. I paid $25 for mine off of Amazon. You open it up, comes with all the little pieces, a little set of gloves from the company, and two of these. And I believe, yeah, they're threaded different directions. One's reverse thread, one's normal direction thread. And they got all the little pieces you need to do your brake calipers. Got that for 25 bucks, free shipping off of Amazon. Best money I spent right there. And we're gonna start tearing into the car and start doing this. Man, this thing is very dim. There we go. So yeah, we're gonna tear into the car, get those rear tires off, get it up on a jack stand. We're gonna do one side at a time, and we're gonna jack one side up, do one side at a time. It's a lot safer, but I'll show you what the old stuff looks like coming off. And luckily we got to it before it was metal to metal, and we'll go ahead and get started. All right, everybody, we are back on these. That's the old pad. You can see how it wore out, and this is the new pad. So you can kind of get an idea the thickness is supposed to be. And this was what was giving us our warning right here. Let's see if I can turn the light on, make that a little bit brighter. There we go. Nope, didn't help. Bring it out here. Oh, that's too bright. I'll turn that down some. But giving you an idea, the camera will focus. There we go. Hey, that squealer was touching the rotor. I know on the driver's side, this is the passenger side. We're gonna go ahead and put the new pads on and get them on, but we're gonna change these rotors first. And I also want to show you how to use this tool. So get under here, and I gotta adjust my brightness on my camera. I don't know what's been up with my camera. It seems like the autofocus and everything hasn't been working properly, but we're gonna go ahead and get all this tore apart. And this is the rear. There we go. Yep, that is the rear. We're gonna pull that bracket off for the caliper, and we're gonna knock these little screws out right here. Hopefully they're loose like the front ones were, but I'm not too hopeful about it. A good way to knock them loose is to take a screwdriver, or if you got a center punch that's about the size of the actual diameter of the screw, and hit it with a hammer and a punch. It'll usually knock it loose, and then you can spin it off with a screwdriver. So, but I didn't got a punch, I don't think, so we're probably gonna do it with the screwdriver. But we're gonna get that knocked loose, and we'll pull this rotor off, pull this bracket off. It's two 17 millimeter bolts in the back, and we'll get all that out of the way, and then we'll work on that caliper, and I'll show you how to do that. So let me get started. All right, here's through the hammer. Well, ran into a little situation. Those little screws, usually they're easy to come out. Sometimes they're really a little snug and you break them loose with a screwdriver. A lot of times they're seized in there. You can hit them with a punch, it knocks it loose, comes off. This one has a piece, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a piece of a screwdriver stuck in it. That's not from me, that's from someone else. And I had to drill out the other one to get it off. Yeah, this is being a pain in my butt. So I'm working on trying to get this one off, and once we get that off, then we can move forward. But yeah, that can make or break you on a Honda if you can't get them off. But you can't drill it because of the type of metal that screwdriver is made out of. So I'm sitting here trying to get that out, and then I can sit here and try to drill it out because I got that piece of metal out from the screwdriver. It's a big pain in my butt, but we're gonna get it done. It's gonna take some time and aggravation, but we'll get it done. Finally got the rotor off. Oh, this mother trucker right here was what I was fighting. Has a broken piece of screwdriver. Oh, this went blurry on me. Oh, come on. Focus. But it has a broken piece of screwdriver in it, and it's a different type of steel than the screw. So I was able to get off by beating the shit out of it. Excuse my language. And the other one I was able to drill out. Once it pops like that, it's easy to come off. That one came off like with my hand. Once I got this one to come loose with my hand, I was so happy. The old rotor sitting down there, got that off. Had to put the lug stud back in because I had to take the lug nut out so I could have more room to beat on this screw. Oh man, that was aggravating. I'm happy that's over with. Now we're going to work on to doing the caliper, and I'm going to show you all how that tool works. But before we do that, I want to bring up a subject real quick. If you ever done brakes before and you pull your brake rotors out of the box, has a plastic bag over it, and you think, oh man, there's oil all over this stuff and you got to clean it off. Well, yeah, you got to clean it off, but these are zinc coated. It's a silver zinc, and they offer it in a black zinc. I got the silver zinc. There's no oil on this rotor or these rotors, so I don't have to clean them. And you do not clean the zinc coating off. If you get one in the black zinc coating, you put the rotor on the car with the rotor black. You do not clean that black coating off. That black coating will come off with the brake pads, and whatever the brake pad doesn't touch, like these slots and the holes and all that stuff, same thing with this one with the silver zinc coating. Whatever the brake pad doesn't touch, it's going to protect and prevent rust. Same thing here. All this is zinc coated. That means all this right here will not rust. So I thought I'd bring that up. Now I'm going to go over here. We're going to grab the tool we need to do this, and I'm going to show you how that works. When it comes to brake calipers, there's a bunch of mixed information out there about them, especially on the newer cars, because in the older cars they said bleed your brake system after you do your brakes. If you want to, you can. I've seen people, and I've done it too, in some of the earlier models, early 90s models Chevy trucks, you don't push the fluid back through the system. This is a sealed system, so you do not have to bleed it or pop the bleeder open and then push the piston in. But you can if you want to, but you don't have to. This car I'm not going to, but some cars you should, like the older Chevy trucks, because if you push the fluid back through the system, it makes the pedal feel spongy. This one, it won't do that, so you have nothing to worry about. So we'll get that off when we push the piston in, and this is the tool. What it does, get it all the way down. Hopefully I got the right one. You gotta look at it, make sure you got the right one. Sometimes you don't even need the extra piece, but I grabbed it just in case. Let's see if this will work without it. No, it's a smaller one. So we need to walk back over here to the toolkit and grab a smaller, because if you see the size of these right here, there's going to be one smaller, and right there it is, the number 4. And there's one up here too that's smaller. That's an F. So probably any one of these. I'll probably go with the F. Slide up and grab it, because it has smaller pieces than the actual holes, little nubs on it. So if you want to make sure you're doing it right, or have the right one, just pull it out, stick it in there, and see if it fits. And that one fits with hardly any slack side to side. A little bit, but it's not a lot. So we're going to try this one. Put it on there. Slide this in there. I know I'm doing this one-handed, so bear with me. Sometimes I wish I had a cameraman that could do this. See, slid right in. Just like that. You back this up like so, and that's it. You just rotate that. When that rotates in, you'll have to continue loosening this because you don't want it snug. But as you tighten it, it's going to push that in. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'll show you the finish. Alright everybody, you can see we got this pushed in. Now some cars, and even some Hondas, you got to pay attention where you have that slot, because you do have brake pads that have a piece on it that goes in that slot that prevents it from rotating as it's coming out. And if you don't do that right, you'll have a crooked pad when you put everything together. But another thing is, you don't want to lock this down as tight as you can when you get it to the bottom. Once it stops turning, rotate it a quarter turn, or If you need to get this slot where it needs to go, rotate it the opposite direction until you get the slot in position. That way you don't lock this down and then it doesn't work no more. So we're going to move on and get the rotor on, get the pads on, and I know you're going to ask, and probably be in the comments, what are you going to do about those screws, David? And I lost them. They're somewhere around here. I'm not going to put them back on. Those screws, basically all they are is when this car was going through the assembly line at Honda, they put those screws in to keep the rotor in place as it was going through the assembly line, and so people can put the brakes and suspension together as they had the rotors on so that they wouldn't fall off. They're not necessary. A lot of people think they got to put them back on. Sometimes, yeah, I have put them back on, but I've also put anti-seize on them when I put them back on, so the next time I get the same vehicle, all I gotta do is take a screwdriver and it comes right off. Not everybody put anti-seize on them. You don't have to have them. You can leave them off if you want to, because a lot of cars out there, even like my Lexus, don't have them. Actually, I think my Lexus did have them, but you don't have to have them on there, because not a lot of companies put them back on there. Hell, General Motors, they don't even have screws. They use these little slide things that goes over the lug nut or the stud, and it locks the rotor in place. When you get a newer General Motors that's never had brakes done before, you got to break that little tab, get it off the stud so you can get the rotor off. So don't worry about it. You don't have to have it on. Now we're going to get back on here and start putting everything back together and see how much better it looks with the newer stuff. But I'm going to show you, I'm going to look at the newer pads and see if it does have it, because if it does have it, I got to reposition that piston to where that slot will fit in there and it would be right. If you look at the pad, see that little nub right there? That's what I'm talking about. That has to be in that slot for the piston. I'm going to grab the old pad. If I don't know if you can see it, you see the slot, the revenants of the old piston, being on this pad, and you see the slot straight up and down. So we got to reposition that slot to where it's straight up and down, and then that nub will fit in the center of that to prevent it from rotating. So they do have it. So remember that slot on the piston has to be straight up and down before you put the pads in, because if it's not and it's sideways, that nub is going to be on that little spot, and this pad's going to sit in there all like this or cockeyed or crooked. You don't want that. Trust me. You do it right, you'll have good brake wear for a long time. So we'll fix that and we'll get everything put on. When you get your rotor on and you see when you put it on, it kind of moves around on you. If you want to keep that from moving like that, reach over here. I'm going to reach over here real quick. Give me a second. I have one right here too. Take your lug nuts. Excuse the camera work. Take one of your lug nuts and just screw it on there. And if you do live up north where it's colder, make sure you clean your hub before you put your new rotor on. Where I live, it doesn't rust, so I don't have to worry about it. So give me 1 second. All right, we're back. See, it's on there. It's not going to move around. One lug nut will hold it, so you don't need two, you just need one, and that will hold it in place. Now if you noticed, I still lined these up with those holes, so I always do that. I never put it in a different place. I always line them up with the original holes, even though you're not putting the same screws back in, and then just put a lug nut on there. It's good to go. Pretty ass rotor right there. Now move on to these. Mine are not seized up. See, they move in and out. I'll pop them out and look at them. I'm doing everything one-handed here, so work with me. See, no signs of rust or anything like that. I'm gonna put a little bit of anti-seize on it instead of grease, because anti-seize holds up better to the heat and wear. And we'll re-grease these and then put it back on. Now, a lot of people do this. You don't do that. Do not put grease on your pad, because it's not good for the pad. That's what this little shim's right here for, is to help with vibration and squeaking. So yeah, don't do that. Same thing with these. You don't have to put grease on these things because they got a material coated on them that helps prevent them from sticking. And the same thing on the back side, you know, it's got a black material on it that helps prevent it from squeaking. So you don't have to grease these. The only things you gotta grease is these slide pins on this, because these move in and out as you're pushing the brakes and they need to be lubricated. So I'll go ahead and get that done. Y'all, make sure you clean that off, get the old grease off before you re-grease them. Hadn't done that one yet, but I wanted to point that out before I ended up putting it back in. This is the stuff I'm using. This one's just regular anti-seize. I think it has the zinc in it, but this is the one I like using. And it is messy stuff if you're not careful, but just a really light coating. It doesn't take much at all. And stick it back in the hole. Make sure you get the air out of the little boot so that way it works properly. So, yep. I'll go ahead and do it, everybody. We got it all back together. Everything's tightened down. New hardware on. New brake pads are in. I rotated the piston to where it lines up with that stud. Rotors are on, and you're thinking, well, it's still going to be loose. No, it's not going to be loose, because once you put the wheel on, tighten the lug nuts down, it's going to be sandwiched between the hub and the rim. So you'll be fine. And we're going to move on to the other side. So let me put the tire on and we'll move on. Everybody, I'm not going to go through detail on this side because I did that on the other side, but I'm going to run through this one really fast. And before I even get started, we're starting on those screws because they're a bitch. Sorry for my French. Alright everybody, I got the rotor off. A little easier this time than the other one, because I didn't have to damage any of the screws. But this time, took my screwdriver. It has a metal cap. It's not connected to the shaft, but it works good on hitting stuff because it's up against the metal piece on the inside. And stick the tip on the screw and beat on it with a hammer until you can twist it off of your hand. So we're gonna go ahead and get the new rotor on. And if you look at mine, it's got a little bit of, you know, rust on it, but it's not horrible. I can trust putting the rotor on that and not having to clean it, because I really don't have a wire brush or anything to clean it off with. So we're gonna go ahead and put that back on, and I might even use one of the screws to hold it on. So let's get started. Alright, we're all done with this side. Ready to put the tire back on, set her on the ground, go test drive it, and break the new pads in. And then over here, we got the old stuff. Old rotors, old pads, and all that. I'm going to put them in the box down here and take that to the dumpster. And I've got most of my tools picked up, except for what's down here. I got to put the tire on. So let me go ahead and do that, and we'll be pretty much done. All right, and last but not least, since everything's done, tires are put on, everything's torqued, tight. Not torqued, I ain't got a torque wrench. Before you even start the car, when you get in the car, always pump your brakes. You'll feel it go straight to the floor. Just keep pumping it until it gets firm. And once you get it firm, now with these calipers here, when you do these, you pump your brakes until they're firm, then you grab your emergency brake, push the button in, pull up, pull up. Just keep pumping. Just kind of pull up on them. The reason is you're pushing that piston out and making it work. And then once your pedal's firm, give it a start. I got trash I got to take to the dumpster, so. And just fill it, you know, pump it a little more, you know, when you get the car started. Put your brake in, put it in gear, and see if it grabs in the parking brake. Yeah, it grabs. Might have to adjust this cable some because it's acting like it's a little loose. But other than that, we're done. Golly, that sun is bright and it's in the wrong place. And there's a process of breaking them in, you know, but me personally, drive them normal. I always take them down the road, you know, and hit them hard a couple times. You know, and just hit it hard a couple times and then slowly drive it. There's a process of doing it the proper way, but every time I did it when I was working in a mechanic shop, I'd take it down the road, get it up to speed, slowly hit the brakes, and then I'd a couple times just kind of hammer on it and seat them in, you know. Other than that, it's not a real big process to it. It's like right now I'm just driving it normal. It feels good. So I'm gonna throw this trash away and get rid of it, take it down the road and see how it does. But this is gonna be the end of my video. If you like what you see, please subscribe to my channel, and I will see y'all next time.